Okay, so we've all heard the hype, right? Gen AI is supposed to be this massive game changer, completely revolutionizing the workplace. But if you're actually on the ground using these tools day to day, you might be feeling, well, a bit of a disconnect, like the hype isn't quite matching up with reality. And that's exactly what we're digging into today, this thing called the Gen AI Efficiency Gap.
And it all kicks off with this number right here, 69%. A recent poll of talent acquisition pros found that a whopping 69% feel Gen AI just isn't delivering what was promised. I mean, that's more than two-thirds of the people on the front lines basically saying, hey, this isn't working the way they told us it would.
And this quote, it just nails the problem perfectly. It's such a clear signal coming from the folks who are actually in the trenches, using these tools every single day. You can just feel the tension, right? There's this massive gap between the vision from the C-suite and what's actually happening on the ground. And that's the core issue we're going to unpack.
So, to get to the bottom of this, we've got a roadmap for today's explainer. First, we're going to tackle this great disconnect. Then, we'll dive into something really interesting called the productivity paradox. After that, we'll decode why this gap even exists, learn some lessons from the people who are getting it right, and finally, lay out what the real path to ROI looks like. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, the Great Gen AI Disconnect. And look, this isn't just a feeling or a few unhappy employees grumbling. The data is screaming that this is a huge system-wide problem. It's the promise of Gen AI slamming right into the wall of reality. And this chart, wow, it really shows you the scale of it. You've got that massive 69% chunk, the majority, saying the tech itself just isn't ready for prime time. But then, look closer. You've got this 19%. They're the ones who are actually making it work. And then there's this other interesting slice, 11% who are saying, hey, the tech is fine, it's the users who are the problem. So right away, you've got three totally different stories being told about the exact same issue.
And it's so important to get this. If you're feeling this frustration, you are definitely not alone. Yeah, our data point started with talent acquisition, but believe me, this struggle to get a real return on investment, ROI, from Gen AI, it's happening everywhere, in every industry.
In fact, if you thought 69% was a big number, get ready for this one. A recent MIT report found that a staggering 95% of enterprise AI solutions fail to deliver any measurable business value. Let that sink in. 95%. That's not just bad luck, it's a pattern. What's happening? Well, companies are buying super impressive tech without knowing what problem they're trying to solve. Or they try to jam a shiny new tool into a workflow that's already broken, which, you guessed it, just makes everything worse. Okay, so this leads us perfectly into our next section, and a concept I find absolutely fascinating, the productivity paradox. The question is this: if we have all these amazing, powerful tools that are saving individuals time, why aren't companies seeing these huge productivity jumps? I mean, where is all that saved time going? And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On the one hand, yes, individuals are saving time. We're talking an average of 5 hours a week. That's the promise right there. But, and this is the paradox, almost half of that saved time, 41% of it, just gets gobbled right back up by new AI-related tasks. Things like fixing the AI's mistakes, fact-checking its work, or having to feed it the same context over and over again. So you get this weird situation where individual efficiency goes up, but for the organization as a whole, it's flat. Nothing changes. And this paradox creates another problem, a huge perception gap inside companies. The folks using the tools every day see one thing, while the executives who sign the checks see something completely different. It's like a tale of two different worlds, really. And here's how that breaks down. You've got the 69%. These are your practitioners, your tech experts, the specialists in the weeds. And they're all saying, look, the technology is the problem. It's not mature enough. But then you have the 11%, mostly VPs, global heads, the strategic leaders. And from their point of view, they see it totally differently. They're saying the problem is a skills gap with the people using the tools. So what is it, the tool or the person using it? Well, the answer completely depends on who you ask. Okay, so we really need to get to the root of this. And that brings us to our next section. We are going to decode this efficiency gap by looking at the 5 main culprits, the reasons these AI projects keep hitting a wall. And here they are. It's really a mix of things: a learning gap, vendors who aren't quite ready, nightmare integration problems, misallocating resources, and this last one is really interesting: a phenomenon called shadow AI. Let's actually zoom in on that last one for a second, because it's a big one. So, shadow AI, what is it? It's basically when employees who are just trying to get their work done faster start using their own personal AI tools, like a free ChatGPT account, for work stuff. And get this, over 90% of employees are doing it. But here's the catch. The individual employee gets a nice little productivity boost, sure. But the company? It gets zero of that value. None of the learnings get shared. All those efficiency gains just stay in the shadows, and the organization as a whole never gets any smarter.
All right, that's enough doom and gloom about the problems. Let's pivot and talk about solutions. Because remember that 19%, the group that said GenAI is actually working for them? Well, let's take a look at what they're doing differently. Because this is where we're going to find a clear, actionable path forward for everyone else.
First up, a huge strategic decision. Do you build your own AI tools in-house, or do you buy a solution from a vendor who specializes in this stuff? Well, the data here is just crystal clear. Trying to build it yourself succeeds only about a third of the time. But buying from a vendor, that works 2/3 of the time. The lesson here is pretty simple. Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
The companies that are succeeding also follow a really clear 4-step roadmap. And step 1 is maybe the most important. They start with their process, not the technology. They fix their broken workflows first. Because think about it, automating a bad process just helps you do the wrong thing faster. Second, they go looking for hidden value. Not in the flashy front and center stuff, but in the back office functions, things like finance, HR, operations. That's where the real unglamorous but massive ROI is often hiding. Third, they are realistic about timelines. This isn't a 2-week project. And finally, and this is key, they completely shift their focus. It's not about making one individual person more productive, it's about making the entire organization more productive. It's a shift from individual speed to collective intelligence. And all of this brings us to our final section, which is really all about getting the right perspective. The real path to getting that ROI from GenAI, well, it means you have to understand that this is a long-term transformation. It is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint. And you know what? History shows us that this is completely normal. With any huge general-purpose technology, think about electricity or the internet, there's always a lag. First, you get the invention, then you have this period, sometimes it takes years, where everyone is just trying to figure out how to best use it, how to build the right infrastructure around it. And it's only after that lag period that you finally see the massive, widespread productivity growth. And folks, right now, we are squarely in the middle of that lag period for GenAI. So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. Winning with GenAI is not about having the flashiest tech or the best algorithm. Real success, it comes from finding that perfect, delicate balance between 3 things: the AI's capabilities, the incredible expertise of your human team, and the organizational structure to make them both shine. And that leaves us with one last critical question that I want you to think about. I want you to look at your own company's strategy. Are you just creating little islands of efficiency, saving one person an hour here, another person an hour there? Or are you building a real strategy for a deep, lasting organizational transformation? Because the answer to that question, well, that's what's going to determine whether you stay stuck with the 95% who fail, or if you join the small group that is actually truly unlocking the incredible promise of AI.